Hello everybody and welcome back to Trek Mission Log. I am very glad that you're here today. My name is Jason Gilbert and I hope you don't mind that I'm wearing my Toronto Blue Jays hat. It's the first game of the postseason and I am representing my team today. Now what we do here at Trek Mission Log is we are taking a hard look at every Star Trek adventure ever filmed. Every episode from every series, every movie, every animated adventure. And currently we are looking at the original series, season 1. Now, before we go any further today, I want to say a huge thank you to all our subscribers and all our new subscribers. The video that I put out last week, The Return of the Archons, has received 2,300 views so far, and we picked up over 40 new subscribers. And I am so happy, I am grateful that you are taking this journey with me. We are one subscriber away from 100. Now when we reach 100 subscribers, a couple things happens. First, new features unlock on my channel, and I'm able to customize the channel more, and I'm able to give my channel a custom URL. And so I'm really excited about being able to do that. But more importantly, I'm going to be doing a giveaway video in celebration of 100 subscribers, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So would you consider subscribing and be that one person that puts us at 100? Also, you can connect with me on Instagram at Trek Mission Log, and we can interact and talk all things Trek there. Now, today's episode is very special. It's perhaps the most important episode in the entire original series. I'm very excited about reviewing this episode today. Season 1, episode 23, titled Space Seed. It originally aired on February the 15th, 1967. It was a story by Carrie Wilbur, with a teleplay by Carrie Wilbur and Gene L. Kuhn. Gene L. Kuhn also produced this episode, and it was directed by Mark Daniels. So let's dive in. As the episode begins, the Enterprise is on an intercept mission for a space vessel that Spock picked up on the sensors. However, it's not appearing on the screen. Uhura picks up a signal. It's coming through in old Morse code. Finally, the ship does appear on the screen. It is an old Earth vessel, DY-100 class. Spock said that the last vessel of that kind was built in the 1990s. Sensors are picking up life signs, but very faint, and only 4 heartbeats per minute. As the Enterprise comes alongside the old ship, Kirk orders all decks to full alert, and then we fade into the title sequence. We come back to a captain's log. They've been beside the vessel now for an hour, and no acknowledgement from that vessel of the presence of the Enterprise. McCoy comes up to the bridge and says he's continuing to pick up heartbeats and counts between 60 to 70 bodies. Spock is able now to make out the name of the ship, the SS Botany Bay. He said that there are no records of this ship from history. He said the reason is probably because in the 1990s, the Earth was in their Third World War. McCoy called that period the Eugenics Wars. Spock added it was humanity's attempt to improve the race through selective breeding. Kirk orders a tractor beam and leaves Spock in charge of the Enterprise while he and McCoy form a landing party. Joining the landing party will be ship engineer Montgomery Scott and the ship's historian Lieutenant McGivers. Now, as they prepare to beam over, McCoy makes a remark that he's here to study medicine, not have his molecules scattered all over space by the transporter. And he would come to complain about that often throughout the series. On the SS Botany Bay, there is a group of people in life support chambers in deep sleep. MacGyver said they are in this state of sleep because in that era, it would take months for interplanetary travel. Scotty, who is part of the landing party, gets the power turned back on, and one of the crew begins showing signs of waking up. Scotty thinks that he was programmed to wake up first. Kirk asked MacGyver's if he could be their leader, and she stands there looking at him completely mesmerized, but eventually said yes, he's the leader. Suddenly there is a malfunction and his heartbeat is dropping. Kirk opens the chamber and pulls him out, and eventually he wakes up. Now, at this point, he can't sleep, but he whispers, "How long?" By that, he meant how long had they been asleep. Kirk said that he estimates 2 centuries. Kirk calls the ship and orders that the patient and McCoy beam back so that he can receive medical treatment. Now, in sickbay, this man is recuperating very, very quickly. Kirk, who's beamed back as well, calls over to the landing party, and Scotty reports that 12 life support chambers have stopped working, but there are 72 that are still working. Kirk looks at Spock and said that this is an important discovery because there's a lot of unanswered questions about this time period, referring to the eugenics wars. Spock is bothered that there are no records. The Botany Bay was designed for interplanetary travel within Earth's solar system. It should not have made its way into deep space, into another star system. Kirk mentioned that in that time, in the 1990s, there was a penal colony off the coast of Australia called the Botany Bay. Spock said his line of thinking was illogical because they would have just killed prisoners instead of wasting resources to send them to space. Spock also indicated that he had no theory as to who these people are, and he pointed out to Captain Kirk that insufficient facts always invites danger. Kirk orders a course for Starbase 12, and they will tow the Botany Bay there. McCoy reports that the patient is stable. His lung capacity and heart function are double than that of the average human. He is definitely a product of genetic engineering. MacGyver comes back in to check on him. Kirk pulls her aside and asks her to stay professional and to keep her personal feelings about this patient out of the picture. The patient is now awake and stretching. He notices some of the medical equipment and he steals a scalpel. McCoy comes in to check on him, and the patient grabs him by the throat and puts the scalpel to him and holds him like that for a moment. McCoy breaks the silence by saying, "Either choke me or cut my throat. Make a choice." I don't know if I would say that if somebody was choking me with a knife to my throat. The patient is surprised to hear English. He asks where he is, but McCoy refuses to answer until he's let go. So the patient releases him, and McCoy tells him where he is on the Enterprise. He asks to speak to the captain. McCoy summons Kirk, and Kirk is on his way. Kirk introduces himself. The patient does not give his name until some of his questions are answered. He asks where they're headed. He asks about his people. He looks upset when he found out that 12 of his people didn't make it. And then finally, he identifies himself as Khan. He asks if he could read the ship's manuals so he can acquaint himself to his new surroundings, and Kirk agrees because he has 200 years to catch up on. In the meantime, Kirk asks Spock if Khan could be one of those genetically engineered. Spock said that it is possible. A group of genetically engineered humans took control of 40 countries all at the same time in 1993. He further stated that after the war was over, a group of 80 or 90 of them were unaccounted for. MacGyver's comes in to see Khan, and he remarks about her beauty. She leaves, but is completely enamored with him. Now, a formal ship's dinner is being prepared for Khan, and on his way to the dinner, he stops by MacGyver's quarters. He admires her paintings of powerful men from Earth's history, men like Napoleon. He finds one that she started of him, and he's very flattered and honored. He said men like that take what they want, and at that point, he took her and embraced her and kissed her. At the dinner, Khan is asked about his journey. He said, simple adventure. Spock questions the attitudes of the period that Khan is from, and Khan seemed in favor of the conquests of the genetically engineered people. And when Kirk asked why they left when Earth needed courage, Khan angrily said, "We offered the world order," indicating that he was indeed one of them who tried to take over the world in the 1990s. Khan excused himself. One of MacGyver's comes to Khan's quarters, and he asks her to open her heart to him. She said she would, and he said he intends to take over the Enterprise and asks for her help. Reluctantly, she said she would, and then she said, "I would go with you anywhere." In a meeting room, the officers finally get some information on Khan Noonien Singh. From 1992 to 1996, he ruled a quarter of the Earth. He was one of the most dangerous tyrants of that time. And so Kirk orders 24-hour security on Khan's quarters. Kirk goes to his quarters to see him and reveals to Khan that he knows exactly who he is. Khan responds by saying, "Excellent." Kirk asked what the purpose of the Botany Bay was. Khan said that they were in search of a new life and a chance to build a new world. And he talked about how in 200 years humans had not evolved that much, and because humanity was in such a weak state, Khan and his people would do well in this time. Khan breaks out of his room and attacks the guard. MacGyver's goes to the transporter room and uses a phaser to take control of that room. Khan comes in and knocks out the transporter sheath and beams over to the Botany Bay, where he wakes his people up. Now, word finally gets to Captain Kirk that Khan has escaped. Khan had figured out a way to jam the ship's systems. Kirk calls Scotty in engineering, and Khan answers. Khan and his people have taken over. He has shut off life support to the bridge, but he's willing to negotiate. The bridge crew is passing out with lack of life support, and eventually Kirk passes out as well. Khan has taken them all as prisoners. When they come to, Khan asks the crew to join him on his quest, and they refuse to cooperate. The viewing screen is activated, and we see that Kirk is inside a decompression chamber, and Khan is dropping life support systems and increasing the pressure. And if the crew doesn't cooperate, they would all watch Kirk die. Khan said he wants to go to a planet where the population would be willing to be led by them. At this point, MacGyver is asked permission to leave, and Khan reluctantly grants it. A few minutes later, the feed stops, and Khan said that Kirk is dead. He orders that Spock be taken to the chamber next. Meanwhile, MacGyver's has set Kirk free. As Spock is accompanied in, he and Kirk knock out the man that brought Spock there, and they take the phasers. Kirk orders all decks to be gassed. Khan escapes and goes to engineering, and Kirk follows in pursuit. Khan has rigged the ship to overload, and in a matter of minutes the ship would explode. And so a fight begins, mostly with stunt doubles. Kirk gets in a Shatner chop, but it has no effect on Khan. Finally, with a blunt object, Kirk beats Khan down, and he stops the overload and saves the ship. Finally, a court hearing is convened. Khan and MacGyvers are answering for their crimes, and Kirk uses his authority to drop all charges against Khan, much to Khan's surprise. They are traveling close to a star group called the Ceti Alpha star group, and Spock said that Planet 5 is inhabitable, and Kirk asked if he would like to go there to tame a planet. Khan said he will go gladly, and he will build an empire. Kirk then offers MacGyvers a choice. Either she can stay on the Enterprise and go through a court-martial, or she could go with Khan. She chose the latter. As they leave, Spock says a very important line. Would be interesting, Captain, to return to that world in 100 years and learn what crops sprung from the seed you planted today. Kirk agrees, and he and his officers leave, and the episode comes to a close. What an amazing episode this is. The emphasis is on character building and story more than action sequences and special effects. But in this case, it worked. In my opinion, it is among the finest episodes in the whole series, with huge implications for the future of Star Trek. This episode has so many strong and good points, and really only two very small weak points, and I'll highlight those as we go along. First of all, Ricardo Montalban was a tremendous choice to play Khan. He was absolutely terrific in that role. He played the proud, arrogant, strong character perfectly. Loved the performance. I've seen this episode many, many times. It never ceases to amaze me how perfect he was for this. The story in itself was amazing. It was not a fast-moving story, but the character development was absolutely fantastic. It has a strong element of mystery, as well as the crew try to find out just who Khan is. I loved how they built the history of planet Earth in this episode. Remember, this is set in the 23rd century, and they crafted a history of planet Earth that takes place in the 1990s. A third world war is mentioned, known as the Eugenics Wars, which started by an experiment to improve the human race through genetic engineering. It's interesting how fiction, or how reality sometimes mirrors fiction, because there have certainly been research into this very, very thing. Little clues are given in this episode as to Khan's role in all of that, and what they did was create this mythos of Khan, and that demanded to be explored. Unfortunately, during the original TV series, they did not revisit the Khan character. They would do so in a movie, however, in the 1980s, and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. In this episode, the tension here between Kirk and Khan was very, very good. Two alpha males that end up duking it out. I loved it. And it was there really from when Khan wakes up, but it elevated when Kirk discovered who Khan actually was. Kirk had the tension of admiring Khan. He also put the safety of the ship first. It was well played by Shatner here. A lot of people put Shatner down, but in my opinion, folks, he was a fine actor. The plot to take over the Enterprise was fantastic. I loved every minute of that. What seemed as a harmless interest in the engineering of the ship, when Khan requested to read the manuals, actually turned into dangerous peril when he only wanted to figure out how to take over the ship, and it was well played. I also love the fact that Kirk dropped all charges to give Khan and his people a fresh start on a planet. Kirk knew that to put Khan in prison would be a waste. It would only create an opportunity for him to escape and wreak havoc. Khan only wanted a chance to build a world, and Kirk gave that chance to him. Of course, Spock's line about returning in 100 years to see the crop of the seed that was planted inspired one of the finest Star Trek films ever made, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. An amazing tie-in to the original series and an amazing motion picture. And I am looking forward to reviewing that film when we get there. Now, the episode does reveal, in my opinion, two small areas of weakness. First of all, no Sulu or Chekhov here. It's sad when key crew are missing. Chekhov doesn't start the series till season 2. Yet in Star Trek II, Khan mentions Chekhov by name. Always felt that was a bit of a weak spot. Secondly, the stunt doubles that were used in the fight sequence looked nothing like the actors, and it was very, very obvious in this one. Very low on the believability factor. However, that being said, this was an incredible episode. I give it 5 out of 5 Starfleet insignias for awesomeness. You must watch this episode. Now, one other thing that I will mention here. Khan is explored in great detail in a book trilogy called The Eugenics Wars, written by Greg Cox. They were first published between 2001 and 2006. Now, the first 2 books detail Khan's creation, childhood, and rise to power, and his fall from power, and his reasons for leaving Earth. And the third book takes place between the events of this episode and Star Trek II. It details Khan's life on Ceti Alpha 5. It explains how Khan knew Chekhov. So I encourage you to check out that book series. It's fantastic, and it's really good stuff. You won't want to miss it. Well, that wraps up this week's edition of Trek Mission Log, and I sincerely hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. Please feel free to drop a comment below. I really love reading them. I even enjoy the ones that disagree with me. That's okay, we can disagree. You all have great insights into this series and into the Star Trek universe, and I love reading your thoughts. All I ask is that we remain respectful of each other and that we keep comments profanity free. I want to invite you to join me next time as I review episode 24, titled A Taste of Armageddon. Should be a good one. Till then, my friends, live long and prosper.